Hey everybody, it's Nick with Bass Hookup, and today we're back, and I'm excited today because I'm going to show you guys something that maybe you've never even thought of, a brand new technique, a new way of fishing that may change the way that you fish your lakes for good. So let's get right to it. Got one guys on the fall. Oh, got a fish, hit it on the fall. Oh, it's a better one. Oh my gosh, there's a bunch following it. There's a whole bunch following it. So, little backstory on this technique. My brother and I thought about this when we were fishing Clear Lake years ago, 10, 12 years ago, and we couldn't quite get these crankbaits down to 30 feet, down to where we wanted them to run. We also didn't like to use the huge crankbaits when the fish were finicky. We wanted something smaller. So how could we get a hard bait down there, a shad mimicking hard style bait down 25, 30 feet or whatever depth that we wanted to without having to change crankbaits and everything else? Well, what we came up with, and what we caught a lot of big fish on, especially in a TOC back in the day, was putting a jerk bait style bait like that. This is the Slender Pointer by Lucky Craft. Small bait, getting it down as deep as we wanted to by adding it onto a Carolina rig. That's right, it's a Carolina rig jerk bait. Sounds crazy, right? Now I know that might sound absolutely crazy to have Carolina rig jerk bait. What a stupid idea. But let me tell you, and I'm hopefully gonna show you, when you get this thing down to those fish and you present the little bait like that and use it just like a jerk bait, I'm letting it go down to the bottom. I'm gonna let it hit the bottom. A lot of times right after it hits bottom, you let it pause and boom, they take off with it. Or you let it hit bottom, reel down, rip, let it pendulum back. The bait's coming back like that. The weight hits bottom, the bait sits there suspended, and boom, they hit it. So you just rip it back. You could throw this out in front of docks. You could throw it on outside weed lines. Obviously it doesn't work well in the weeds. You're throwing a treble hook bait on here, okay? So you're talking about rock piles, you're talking about flats that don't have weeds on it, out in front of dock pilings, stuff like that. But it actually works excellent. So how I have it set up is I'm throwing mine. I have 15-pound fluorocarbon on my main line, half-ounce egg sinker just like Carolina rig, a barrel swivel, and then I got about 2.5, 3 feet of 12-pound monofilament. Why I want the monofilament is because I don't want to use fluorocarbon. I don't want this thing to get sucked down to the bottom. Fluorocarbon sinks, it's going to drag it down to the bottom. I want this thing to act like a jerk bait and stay suspended. When I pause it down there in 20, 25 feet of water, that's when you're going to get those strikes. So throwing it again, bait caster, medium action bait caster, lose reel, 15-pound P-line tactical fluorocarbon, and then 12-pound CXX copolymer to my little jerk bait here. And you could throw whatever jerk bait you like. You could throw a floating jerk bait on this. Works really, really well. Jerk, pause, that thing slow floats back up and they eat it. Think about it, guys. This technique works great. We all know the jerk baits have that minnow shaped profile, probably better than a lot of the crankbaits out there. You could even add a little square bill on there if you want. So a lot of different variations. Let's try to put this thing to work right now and see if we catch some fish. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this thing out to the middle of the lake. Again, fishing it out deep right here. I'm in 20 feet. I'm probably throwing it out to 35. I'm gonna watch my line, let it go down to the bottom. When it hits the bottom, I'm gonna let it sit for a second. There we go. Bottom right there, line just went slack. Reel. And then I'm gonna pop it. Just like I would a jerk bait. Back on the bottom, and then pop it again. I can feel that bait working. And let it go back down, pendulum down. It's on bottom. Let it sit. Rip that thing up again. Let it go back down. Now the difference between this, if you're wondering, what's the difference between this and throwing an LV500 or jigging a rattle trap on bottom? Difference is this is not on bottom. The bait's actually suspended up, whereas the rattle trap or something's gonna be laying on bottom. So there's a little bit of difference there. Got one. Got one, guys, on the fall. Right there. Ooh. Careful, careful. There you go, right there. Let me back us up off the spot here a little bit. But right there, nice little fish. Carolina rig jerkbait. It works, I'm telling you. I ripped it, as you could see, and then it was falling. The weight was falling. The bait's probably going like this back down. It stopped and tap. Ate it. So, Carolina rig jerkbait. Get that guy back. I'm gonna go in here and try to get another one. Oh, there's another one. One's a lot smaller, but he crushed it. Again, this wind's blowing us into here. Look how dark he is. Little dark guy, but we've caught so many big fish on this. I'm a true believer that it will get big bites. Like I said, especially when they're feeding on small bait. They're down deep, even around docks, it works great. Something they've never seen down there before. Sure, they've seen deep diving cranks, burn paws, they're digging bottom. This is a little different. It's suspended up over bottom. When you stop it, it suspends or sits still, where those crankbaits kind of all float back up. So, you know, something to think about. Oh, got a fish. Got a fish. Hit it on the fall. Oh, it's a better one. Oh my gosh, there's a bunch following it. There's a whole bunch following it. And here, oh, that's a nice one. There we go. Nice one right there. There was like 5 following it too, but look at that. Jerkbait in the face, Carolina rig jerkbait. Crazy bait. Crazy that it works, but it just does. It just works. And it makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense to you guys why it works. I don't know. Good fish. It works all in the lakes. I want to get another one because there's like 5 with this guy, so we're kind of floating up on the spot. I'm gonna let us drift over it and make another drop. Another thing this bait's great for is covering a lot of water. Just like a crankbait, you could bomb cast. Heck, you could throw it out, let it go to the bottom and just kind of drift with it, troll it, rip it every once in a while, let it sit. But you could cover a ton of water if you just want to find out if there are fish around. It's a great way to cover water. Alright guys, I had to switch to my iPhone, so it might get a little bit windier, but GoPro went out, battery died. I'm gonna try to catch a couple more fish right here. Kind of made a run across the lake. I spooked those fish back there, so let's see. We got one more cast, and then we gotta take off. Last cast, but hopefully you guys kind of get the concept behind the Carolina rig jerkbait. And I know it's the craziest technique you guys probably seen. It's just something wacky that you would think some guys came up with and it doesn't work. Well, it does work. I promise you it does work. It works great. Like I said, deeper water, especially sometimes bass get around sand, sandy spots. Like I said, little rock piles. Works excellent. Get your bait down there, work it like a jerkbait, give them something they haven't seen before. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time.